Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spartan podcast. I'm John Schwartz, Sports Information Director at Case Western Reserve University, and welcome to our first podcast. As this will be a thing we'll be doing every week now, and we'll take you through it here a little bit, tell you how we plan on doing this. But basically, the first 5 to 10 minutes of the podcast every week will be a recap of what's happened in Case Western Reserve University sports, how all the teams have done, who had standout performances throughout the week, etc. We'll also tell you what's coming up on the Spartan schedule coming forward, what games to look forward to here, special events that are happening. After that section's done, again, about 5 to 10 minutes of that. We'll take a quick break and then bring you right into a student-athlete interview. It'll be a different student-athlete or a coach or a former alumni, any of the above that we'll be interviewing week to week. And we'll get a little bit of a perspective on those athletes and on those people who, obviously had some great experiences here, continue to have great experiences at Case Western Reserve. And we got a good one coming up today. Again, in about 10 minutes, we'll talk with Kevin Dong, a senior on the men's tennis team. And if you don't know, Kevin also the president of Blue Crew, which is a great student organization promoting athletics and campus spirit through athletics. So, again, exciting stuff. And we'll talk to Kevin and hear about his story in just a few. But let's go ahead and get started with a recap on the week of Case Western Reserve University sports, and it was opening week for the 2016-17 season for the Spartans, and we'll take you through all the teams in action, including the football team that opened up at home against the University of Chicago and won its game in resounding fashion, 45-17 the score, the Spartans with the win. Great defensive effort, especially in the second half, where the Spartans held Chicago scoreless. In the meantime, offensively, impressive day for Rob Kuda, the quarterback for the Spartans, junior, with 4 touchdowns. He went 17 for 21 passing, added 125 rushing yards, his third career 100-yard rushing game. Really, though, the electric play of the game was Justin Fan's 85-yard punt return that came early in the second quarter. If you haven't seen that one yet, go ahead and take a look. The link is up on athletics.case.edu. Defensively, mentioned a great second half performance by the Spartans defense, held Chicago scoreless. Andrew Banathy really pacing that one, 11 tackles for the Spartans, and what was an all-around really good defensive effort for the team. Bye week coming up for Case Western Reserve, then they'll be back in action with 2 straight games on the road, beginning with Grove City on Saturday, September 14th. Case Western Reserve University volleyball with a nice weekend, going 3-0 at the Otterbein Capital Tournament. Started off the weekend with a 3-1 win over Capital on Friday, and then on Saturday a pair of 3-0 wins over both Earlham and Kenyon. Karina Bondalid, the sophomore libero, made the all-tournament team, averaged 4 digs per set and 1.1 service aces per set. That number leads all UAA players after the first weekend of action. Meanwhile, Kayla Pfaff, the senior and a co-captain on the team, a 360 hitting percentage during the week, 1.5 blocks per set as well, and that includes a career-high 9 blocks on Friday against Capital. Brianna Lemon, the freshman, had a team-best 3.0 kills per set, and she had a nice collegiate debut. Volleyball will open at home on Wednesday at 7 o'clock against John Carroll University. We hope to see you down for that one. And then 4 weekend matches for volleyball coming up as part of the Marcia French Tournament on Friday and Saturday, and so it'll be a big weekend of volleyball here at Case Western Reserve University, and that'll be a big chunk of their home schedule. So if you want to come down and watch some volleyball this season at Horsburgh Gym, this weekend will be the time to do it. Men's soccer with a 1-1-0 start to their season last weekend, opening up play for the 2016 season with a dominating 3-0 win over Mount Union on Thursday. Paul Darmstadter got the scoring started with a 26th-minute goal that would prove to be the game winner. Josh Prosser, the senior forward, added 2 second-half goals, the first multiple-goal game of his career. The team unfortunately suffered a 1-0 loss at Thomas More on Sunday. That Thomas More team received votes in the preseason poll. They scored late after the 80th minute in that game to clinch the 1-0 win over the Spartans. And again, that dropped the team to 1-1 on the year. Nice week defensively for goalkeeper Thomas Nolan. The senior made both starts, played the first half of both games, and made 5 saves during the 2 games combined without allowing a goal. That includes 4 saves against Thomas More on Sunday during a scoreless first half, and that marks a career high for Nolan. The men's soccer team will return home on Wednesday at 7:30. They'll take on Baldwin Wallace. And then a Sunday game coming up at 2 o'clock against DePaul. Women's soccer with a 1-0-1 start to their season. They opened up play with a win over Oberlin on Amy Lindberg's 61st minute penalty kick goal. And that win gave Case Western Reserve University head coach Tiffany Crooks her 77th career win, and she became the program's all-time wins leader with that victory. The team followed that up with a 1-1 double overtime tie at Hiram. After the team fell behind early, a goal by freshman Kimberly Chen came in the 73rd minute, tying the score for the Spartans, and both teams went scoreless the rest of the way in the 1-1 tie. Despite the tie, the Spartans dominating in that one, a 33-12 edge in total shots. The Spartans will open up at home against Kenyon on Tuesday at 7:30, the beginning of a 3-game homestand. That homestand will continue on Saturday at 1:30 against Allegheny. Cross Country opened up their season this week. A Friday meet, the Sudex Sunset Classic Stampede, hosted by Case Western Reserve University at the Valley View Squire Farm in Hunting Valley, Ohio, nearby the campus. Danielle Copens won the women's 4K race in a course record time of 15:02 to lead the way there, as the Spartans won the team portion of the meet over both John Carroll and Ursuline. Other highlight performances for the Spartans include a third-place finish for sophomore Jennifer Hoffman. She recorded a time of 15 minutes and 35 seconds, and freshman Vanessa Passett, making her collegiate debut, finished fifth in the event with a time of 15:41. On the men's side, junior Sam Merriman won the 6,000-meter run with a time of 19:24. It was a 30-second improvement on his time on the course from last season when he finished second in the event. The Spartans also had the second-place finisher, junior Aiden DeSanto, who recorded a time of 19:44. Freshman Luke Robbins, making his collegiate debut, finished seventh in the race. He had a time of 20 minutes and 16 seconds. The men finished second at the meet to John Carroll University. So that concludes the wrap-up here as we'll get set to get going with our interview. Again, Kevin Dong, a senior on the Case Western Reserve University men's tennis team, and the president of Blue Crew coming up here. Enjoy the interview. Kevin, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm going to try to get the full picture of you here as we go along, but, unravel all the layers. But, start off, obviously, mention you're a senior on the men's tennis team. How did you start playing tennis? When did you start playing? Take us a little bit through that.
Okay, so I grew up originally in Athens, Georgia, and I have an older sister who's 2 years older than me, and then an older brother who's 5.5 years older than me. And really, it was just kind of my parents got my brother into it, who got my sister into it, and naturally, I started playing and really just played from when I was 8, and then all the way through the end of high school. And at senior year, Todd Wachowski, the coach here at Case Western, started talking to me and really convinced me that Case Western was the place for me.
Yeah. Who's the better player right now? Can you beat your brother and sister at this point, or is it?
Absolutely.
That's good. What age did that happen? At what age did you finally start to get a chance to beat them there? Because you said they're older, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So I can't really remember the rivalry with my brother as much, but I remember my sister and I used to get into a lot of fights, and then probably around when I was 11 years old was when I started beating my sister, and then the fights just got worse. And just changing the dynamic from me getting better than her. But she also had the decision to either play D3 varsity tennis or just go to Georgia Tech, and she ended up choosing Georgia Tech. So I kind of went the opposite route because I was kind of her shadow for 18 years. So I was ready to make my own path and come here to Case and see what the student-athlete experience was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So was that kind of the point where you realized when you finally started to beat your sister, when you started to beat your siblings? Because I'm always curious, because I was not an athlete so much, and I'm always curious when you talk to people, when you realize that you were pretty good at tennis, when you were good at the sport, and because you have to be to play at this level. It's not like someone could just walk off the street, pick up a tennis racket, and play. So I guess, is that the point when you realize, maybe I can play at the next level, or did that come at a different time in your life?
I guess I'll start when I started playing tennis when I was 8. The the young child's ambitions are, grow up and become a professional tennis player. As you get older, it becomes more and more realistic, and the drive came, one, from my parents, just driving me to be the best in whatever endeavor I'm in, whether that's school, swimming, tennis, anything. So one, it was just them pushing me to be as best as I can, and then two, the academy that I was training out of really was devoted to training junior tennis players to becoming college tennis players. So that was just always a goal for me growing up, always trying to get to college tennis. And ultimately, I mean, you really never know until you're in high school and you're on track, almost, so to speak, to reach that level.
Yeah, absolutely. So, last question about the family, and then I'll leave. But you mentioned your sister went to Georgia Tech, and you grew up in Athens.
Yes.
So, my next question is coming. So, are you a Bulldogs fan, or are you a Ramblin' Wreck at this point?
I'm definitely more of a Bulldogs fan than a Rambling Wreck fan. So
very cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
Sweet and short and sweet there.
Easy enough. I won't start any more fights between you and your sister over that one. But so you come from Georgia, and obviously, you come a long way up to Cleveland in two very different parts of the country. Mm-hmm. How did that decision come about? Take us through that a little bit, and how you decided to come. I know you mentioned, coach recruiting you, and but talk a little bit about that, your decision to come here.
Okay, yeah, there were definitely a lot of factors pulling me both ways. Ultimately, I ended up applying to a lot of schools, but the two choices that it came down to were Case Western and Georgia Tech. And my sister was already at Georgia Tech. It almost represented like the safe option in terms of being only an hour and a half drive away from home, being on the same campus as my sister. And then Case Western, on the other hand, was definitely this huge unknown. It was up in Cleveland, Ohio, which, yes, I have traveled before in my life, but it wasn't really like the same level of, hey, like I'm going to spend 4 years on my own up in Cleveland, Ohio. So to me, it was definitely a lot of thinking going on there. My mom definitely wanted to keep me close, so you know how it is with parents. And I came really close to going to Georgia Tech, but at the end of the day, I knew I wasn't sacrificing academics to play tennis here at Case Western. And Coach Todd actually really convinced me that this was the place to be, knowing that what he does with the program here, him coming about 8 or 9 years ago, taking an unranked team and putting it on the national scene, that really was just a huge draw, like for me, just someone who wasn't done with competing at that level.
Yeah, well, you talk about the team, and you guys have, especially for a tennis team, I think, very unique personality. I think it's fair to say, but I think most people, if you turn on the U.S. Open right now, the stands are almost dead quiet. Whereas you guys have a ton of personality that bubbles over. You guys are loud. You cheer for each other. Talk a little bit about that, because you guys aren't probably the typical Division III tennis team in that sense, or any tennis team in that sense.
So all of this personality and energy that you're talking about really initially stems from Coach Todd. So it's just part of the culture that he has built at Case Western, which has made us so successful. So I guess I'll be pretty upfront about it. We actually don't normally get the best recruits, especially within even our own conference and also on the national scene. Our rivals, Emory, WashU, Carnegie Mellon, and U Chicago, they'll often steal the same people that we were actually recruiting. That being said, even though on paper everyone coming in doesn't always look as good as these other teams that we're playing against, part of what makes us bridge the gap is kind of our work ethic and our energy. And the way you described it was our personality, and you kind of see it on court when you're watching a duel match. We're always bringing energy, cheering for each other, and that's just our passion, just overflowing onto the duel match. And even just last year, it was a great example. One of the best seasons we've had. Yes, we did lose some matches, but we also had wins against these other top UAA teams. So WashU, Chicago, and Carnegie Mellon, even though on paper they should be better, we still notched a win against all three of those teams. So it's just a matter of the culture and really everyone buying into it. That's really what has bridged the gap there.
Last year, probably one of the most, I don't know, entertaining's the right word. But one of the more fun times of the year certainly was the ITA Indoor Championships,
Yes.
which we hosted last year, getting a chance again to host this year. And again, the energy having it home was pretty spectacular, and you were a huge part of that too on the court. I believe playing fifth singles for the team, and you had a great weekend then for the team. That event in particular, and that weekend. Talk about the mindset of the team that weekend, because again, it seemed like you guys were having a lot of fun then when you on the route to that third place finish.
Yes. So that weekend was definitely probably one of the funnest weekends I've had as a part of this program, and it really meant a lot to us. Being able to host it was amazing. We were all together. We didn't have to limit our travel team because everyone was already at home. So just having the whole team together for that accomplishment would definitely meant a lot to us. And yes, it's a very stressful time, especially because it's at the beginning of the season. It meant a lot to us that even as the 8 seeds of the tournament playing the number 1 seed WashU, that was just a prime example of what I was talking about, how our culture makes people come together, put their heads down, work really hard, and bridge the gap between our recruiting classes, and just really show that everything before college doesn't necessarily matter, that once we get to college and are part of this Case Tennis program, that we can really kind of start a new identity for ourselves and really bring the energy and ultimately get high, overachieve in terms of results.
Now, the last 3 years, you had the privilege of being able to play with one of the best players in the country in C.J. Krimble.
Yes.
Think 7-time All-American. It's probably I would imagine you'll get to play with guys like that a ton. From your perspective, what made CJ so successful while he was here and really successful on a national level while he was here that really no other tennis player in school's history had ever been?
Yeah. One of the biggest things about CJ, well, I guess the two things that I think stand out most about him, one is his dedication. It's unparalleled. He was always putting the tennis first, and secondly, he was just probably one of the most mentally tough people I've ever seen. And what that meant to me is every time that anything was on the line, he just had another gear, and he could just enter that new mode, and no one could stop him. And it was just unbelievable to see that kick in every single spring. It was just unbelievable. Whenever the team needed him, he would put us on his back and just get a W. So that was just incredible to see.
Well, and you've spoken a lot about Coach Todd as well today, and I think it's clear when you talk to people on the team, you guys love your coach. I think that's pretty much a universal perspective on it. What makes it so special to play for a guy like Coach Todd?
One of the things about Coach Todd is that he is relatively young. So he did go through the college tennis experience on the D1 level. He spent a few years at Toledo, and then he also spent a couple of years at the Ohio State University. And I think that really means a lot, knowing that our coach has been through the fire, has been through that type of culture, and kind of been able to mold it into his own, bring it here to Case Western, and adapt it to our needs. And just really seeing that how hard he works and how much he gives to the program, it makes it easier for us to really buy in and come together and make a result.
So for you this season, probably a little bit of a new role for you as well, because senior year, you're gonna, I'm sure, be asked to step up, continue to, it seems like you've already been a leader on the team, but obviously the role increases with each year you go along. How are you approaching that coming into the fall season here?
Yes, so there are a lot of expectations set by myself, coach, teammates, and really for me, I've actually spent most of my summers in college in Cleveland. So I was around teammates pretty much freshman year all the way up until last May. And having spent this past summer in Atlanta away from my teammates, I've just started really, really appreciating every second that I'm here at Case Western with with the guys. So my approach really is just to appreciate the chance to compete, to spend time, laugh, and even just do anything with the guys. And really, I kind of joke about it sometimes, but one of the things I'll miss the most is the guys, and then being able to yell as loud as I want in public and have it be totally acceptable.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, and you spoke a little bit about your summer in Atlanta, and we'll get back to that here in a sec. But talk a little bit about your academic background here at Case Western Reserve. I assume you're a business major, right?
Yes.
Very cool. And you said you spent the summer in Atlanta working for Deloitte. Tell us a little bit about that experience and what happened there.
Yeah. So I spent the summer working with Deloitte under their advisory practice, which was an incredible experience. They really, really take care of their employees. So it meant a lot to me that their culture was so welcoming and supportive. They have a great sense of mentorship. So I had a second-year consultant who was considered like my buddy and my informal advisor, and then they also paired me up with a coach who was a manager. So just being able to have different insights from different levels of the firm was definitely something that was really interesting to me to see what they do on each level. But for me, going forward into full-time, I actually didn't accept an offer with them, but I did want to move into sort of management consulting. So right now I'm going through a recruiting process with a lot of firms, including Deloitte Consulting, which is separate from Deloitte Advisory.
Very cool. So kind of covered your academic and your athletic bit, but there's a big part of something that you do here on campus as well, and in recent years that really has taken off, and that's Blue Crew, which you've done a fantastic job with it. And let me let you describe kind of what Blue Crew is, and because you guys do a ton. It's I would say a kind of a marketing, but it's more than marketing. Well, you tell us, Kevin.
Okay.
Talk about Blue Crew a little bit.
Blue Crew is a student organization that I founded with a few others. One of the other co-founders was actually Gabriel Murcia, who's also a teammate of mine, and together we kind of envisioned just a really enhanced culture centered around sports at Case Western. So we saw a unique opportunity to create the student organization and foster school spirit through creating events that were centered around all these different home competitions and really just enhancing the game day experience, but also creating a more unified Spartan brand. And that's what we've really been pushing. Like you said, we do a lot of marketing, and we do that through a bunch of different things, but mainly T-shirts. We've done a bunch of brochures this semester, and we even have Blue Crew foam fingers and Blue Crew rally towels for the first football game. So it's just a lot of different minds coming together, working to improve just the overall Spartan community, and it's been a lot of fun.
It's interesting because I think a lot of the perception of the campus sometimes can be, hey, we're not sports fans here, but I think you guys have kind of proved that wrong with the groups that you could get to come out and the way you've motivated some groups, and it's really been fantastic.
And that's actually been one of the things that we've learned since we founded this organization. Originally, our mission statement, I believe, read to create school spirit through the lens of athletics, but now we realize it's not necessarily creating it, it's more of fostering it, because we realized in our first year that there is the spirit, and it's just the matter of us and everyone coming together to take care of it.
Yeah. So what do you guys have planned for this year? Season is underway here, and so what's the big plans for this year?
So this year we are really learning from a few things that we did last year, and we are trying to ramp up everything, all our events, and we have a kind of a big umbrella name for our fall schedule, and it's called the Blue-Gray Games. So the Blue-Gray Games is our way of trying to target at least one sporting competition from each sport. So we have a fall Blue-Gray Games, and then we're aiming to have a spring Blue-Gray Games, and then everything in between we will have as standalone events. And for this fall, so we have an event centered around the football home opener, which happened last Saturday.
Well, we're just full disclosure here on the podcast. We want to be honest with people. We're recording this week, and I think we're going to air it next week. So we may or may not have played a football game by then, and we may or may not have won it. Hopefully, we won it then.
Yeah,
but.
And so after hopefully the success of the football home opener, we are also going to be at the men's soccer game against Kenyon on September 27th. And then,
by the way, Kenyon ranked in the top 10 nationally,
yes.
So that should be a pretty solid game.
Yes, so we definitely planned that the we picked that game because we knew that it would be a really big win for our program if we could get the crowd to support the soccer team and push them over the edge to get the W.
Yeah.
And the other next event for us is October 12th, where volleyball is going to play Hiram College, and that's actually their senior day.
Okay.
And then our last event for the fall under the Blue Gray Games umbrella name is going to be on October 28th, and that's women's soccer, and they're playing Chicago.
Cool.
So
Very
we definitely chose a good mix of opponents, a couple of UAA rivals, and then Kenyon is definitely a regional rival as well as on the national scene.
Yeah, absolutely, and it all sounds great. And again, I think good opportunity for the students to get out there, for fans to get out there, and certainly now if someone wants to find out more information, if they want to participate, become a member of Blue Crew, where can they go to do that?
So this week, which will be before this podcast airs, we're meeting on Thursday, but in the following weeks you're going to be meeting on Tuesday from 8 to 9 p.m. in the Tinkerville University Center.
And by the way, it's something that people should know too. This isn't just a bunch of people showing up in a room. There's a structure to Blue Crew. I mean, you mentioned you're the president is the official title, I assume. So, I mean, you're the president. There's a structure to this, and there's some leadership opportunities as well for people too, which is nice. So, yeah. So, okay. So, in order to wrap up the podcast here, and just to, we're going to try to do this every week, but 5 questions. We're going to call them the Spartan 5. So we'll give you the Spartan. We're going to put you to the test here, and everyone's going to get the same Spartan 5. All of our athletes as they come in. So, first one. So, Kevin, if you need to go someplace to get away from everyone here on campus, where do you head to?
To be honest, I would definitely go straight to my room and close the door and just get a little peace and quiet.
Do you live on campus? This is one of the Spartan 5. This is a supplementary to the Spartan 5 here. But do you live on campus?
So I do not. I've lived on campus my first 3 years, but this year I'm actually living on Hessler Road.
Very cool. Number 2, your favorite meal to get on or near campus?
Okay, so this is going to sound a little silly, but some of my friends and I like to go to this Chinese place on Payne Avenue called Wonton Gourmet. And it's the closest thing to home food that I can get.
Very cool. I'll tell you, I'm still new to the area, so I'm hoping that if I keep asking this question, I'll get some good restaurant tips too. But perfect. Okay, question about the team here. The funniest person on the team, and since we're early in the year, it could be someone from last year too, if you want to pick out someone that graduated. But funniest person on the men's tennis team.
Funniest person on the men's varsity tennis team at Case Western definitely goes to David Zakotin.
Okay.
You can ask him to do an impression of any other guy on the team, and he will do it on the spot, and it is impeccable.
We're gonna have to have him come in here to do some.
You absolutely need to interview David Zakotin and have him do an impression on everyone. Okay.
4th question: best road trip moment. Relatively clean, Kevin.
Okay, sure. No, this one's definitely clean.
Okay.
I don't know if this is necessarily the best road trip moment, but it might have been the most traumatizing for me. So my freshman year, Coach had an idea to, on one of the first few road trips in the spring, he thought that we could use that time in the car to get to know each other a little bit better. So he asked everyone to kind of rotate vans every time we stopped to take a break, and in each rotation we were supposed to share our life story. And coming in as a freshman, I wasn't really sure what he meant by tell your life story. So after Coach gave his 45 minute life story, I was kind of confused. I was like, oh, so does that mean my life story needs to be just as long? Well, I kind of rambled on and on and on for about an hour, and then everyone was pretty confused as why I said nothing in a long period of time with a lot of words. So to this day, people will still bring it up every once in a while, and and we all laugh about it. And
We're limiting your life story here somewhat on this. We've hit some of the key points, but off mic we might ask you to repeat that tale. But last question from the Spartan 5: your favorite experience as a Spartan?
Yeah. So my favorite experience as a Spartan was definitely being able to compete at national indoors in Cleveland, in our hometown last spring, and take home the 3rd place. And really, by doing that, beating 2 UAA rivals in the process, really answering a lot of questions for our team since we had lost half of our lineup in the previous year. So that that weekend really meant a lot for us, and just a lot. There was a lot to celebrate.
Yeah, definitely. Kevin, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being the first person to dive into the pool here, and appreciate it. Good luck on the upcoming season. You guys get started with the fall season the weekend of the 16th and 17th, I believe.
Yes, that's great.
And we're excited to see what you guys can do this year.
All right, thank you
Thanks.
for having me.